Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 378. Getting pretty close to 400, aren't we? Now, let's see what shows up here. So, okay, I'm pretty interested in drafting this Kalista. I've drafted Kalista a couple of times as kind of a support champion here since the 212, 213 patch, whatever we're on now. But I haven't actually gone over and tried to draft a Kalista build around on her own. And so the Afterlife card pool has changed quite a bit. It used to be extremely good. It was, she has always had kind of a extremely diluted card pool because the kind of like kill your own units strategy with Blighted Caretaker was just too easy to pull off. The Mist Wraith strategy was pretty strong, and she was definitely a tier 1 champion. But they've gone and made some changes to both of her card pools, and I feel like she's probably more like a tier 3 style champion these days. And so we'll get her pulled up on the site and talk about her just a little bit more, get some depth to this. And so, if you're not familiar with it, we're just going to be over here at ftpbus.com. It's where I keep all of my expedition-related content. We're just on the main page here, or the Expedition Helper button up on the little toolbar. We'll scroll down to the bottom of the page to this drop-down box and make our way to Kalista and Afterlife. And so, yeah, she certainly got some problems here, right? And so, again, this used to be like really focused on using either mist wraiths, and so you have your wraith caller that you can still see here, but you would have either wraith caller, mist wraith, and the risen mists all lived here. Extremely strong deck to go after. The big thing that we would try to do with this is pick up a blighted caretaker, and so the big thing with blighted caretaker is if you need 3 allies to die to flip your Kalista, the caretaker comes down, kills one. The 2 saplings have ephemeral, so they're going to die pretty quickly, and then you got your Kalista flip off of 1 card. And so that strategy probably a little bit too powerful. Then at the end of the day, we would be trying to just bring Kallistas back with the Rekindler. This was kind of the ultimate late game strategy that this deck could do. Is if you had a dead Rekindler and a flipped Kalista, you would bring back the Rekindler with her attack. The Rekindler would bring back another Kalista. Just a big old bunch of value. But these things aren't really available anymore, right? All of these cards we're talking about between Blighted Caretaker and Mist Wraith just don't live here anymore. And so this is really now trying to focus on the killing your units for some kind of value. We typically equate this to being a Slayers style deck over with Kindred. And to a lesser degree with Lucian, but that's what is going on here. We're trying to play things like Chronicler of Ruin to get some value out of killing our units. You have cards down here at the bottom in the rare slot like Gluttony, where you kill a unit and get something a little bit bigger. Ancient Crocolith coming down to kill 2 units, but the payoff is this big boy. That's kind of what you're trying to do here, is kill some units and get some value out of it. And so I think we should still be able to chase this down. This is still a valid strategy. Whenever we do go after this strategy, the big thing that I call out is you have to have units you can sacrifice. And so a piece of that is still here, right? We still have access to Cursed Keeper. We used to talk a lot of trash about this guy, but now there's enough sacrifice outlets to make this guy worth it. And so the big problem that you can run into with these decks is say your board is completely empty. Your opponent through combat navigation and removal spells that has just ended the life of all of your units, and then you're trying to do things like play Mask Mother, which needs to kill an ally, or you're trying to play Spirit Leech, which needs to kill an ally, or Blighted Caretaker, or Glimpse from Beyond. All of these cards need something on the board to get their advantages going. And so we're looking for cards that either die and put another unit into play. So something like Cursed Keeper dies and gives us the Abomination. We're looking for, in that same vein, we'd be looking at like Hapless Aristocrat. We're looking for cards that also generate 2 units. There would be the Fading Icon, the 3/1 for 2 mana, that puts the 0/1 sacrificable into play. And then you also have things like the Wings and the Wave down here in Epic Land that comes into play as a unit and then can put another unit into play. And so we place a super high value on on all of these cards. You can kind of survive if you just draw too many Cursed Keepers, but you're definitely going to lose if you draw, a bunch of Spirit Leeches with nothing to sacrifice. And so that will be our big focus. Before we go, I mean, this is what like really worries me about Kalista is they came and added Absorb Soul to the deck, which is extremely bad. And then if you take a peek at the rares, you've got these big X's all over. It looks like 6 cards in a row. And so, Kalista can suffer from some card quality issues. This is the way that Riot tries to balance Expedition. To a degree, they'll balance some cards that are clearly like limited cards. If you're coming from a background of Magic, a 2/2 flying for 3 mana, nowhere near playable and constructed, but they tend to be limited format All-Stars. We'll see edits to cards like those in Expedition, but the way Riot typically tries to balance Expedition card pools, knowing that they're never going to nerf Kalista based on how good she is in Expedition, is they just start adding bad cards to the card pool. And so if they can't make the good cards worse, they can make them harder to find, and they can make you make some real decisions as to, are you willing to, say, take a Cursed Keeper paired with Absorb Soul. And so that's what happened to Kalista. With the 211 patch, she used to be completely fantastic. One of the tier 1 champions in the game. Now I'm wanting to give her a shot and see how this goes post nerf. See if she can still hold it together. And okay, this is an interesting set. I do love playing full Shadow Isles with Kalista, so I'm ecstatic that this Hecarim showed up. There is an argument to want to come in and take the Ezreal. There are reasonable control decky kind of cards out of Death's Door Thresh. Not something I really want to pursue. And there's not going to be enough targeted removal between our card pools to switch into an Ezreal build around. When it comes to building around Ezreal, I want units that do targeting. And so the things like the Frostbite Archer and the Stun Spider, hope you know what those are. Then the multi-target spells like Static Shocks that target 2 things, Make It Rain targets 3 things. You can't just be reliant on playing 6 spells to get Ezreal to flip. And so we'll let him go. Pike, I really do not enjoy, so we'll skip over that. That puts us back here with this Hecarim. And so the perk to this, the upside to this, is once we get through Pack 6, we should be 100% Shadow Isles, and so we'll be seeing 3 Shadow Isles packs with every pick from 7 through 14. And so hopefully a lot of these cards, like the Slayer's Kindred cards, will be showing up. The Maokai pools that have Blighted Caretakers. Just hopefully, having a lot of options within Shadow Isles will get us near the cards we're wanting. Now that we've made that aside number 2, thing that interests me in the Hecarim Shadows and Dust showing up is Shark Chariot. If we move ourselves over to the Redemption Kalista, this one has also been changed. This is not what Retribution, I'm sorry, not what you're used to. This does have the Shark Chariots living in it. And so we have picked up 1 ephemeral unit. The Shark Chariot lives in the other Kalista card pool. This one has Cursed Keeper, Blighted Caretaker in it as well, so that gives us some options. But if we go and take a peek at Hecarim, he is 100% interested in building around ephemerals and Shark Chariots. And so we may kind of find our ways into a Shark Chariot style deck, depending on how things show up. And either way, whether or not we go to the full Kalista build around or go to the full Shark Chariot kind of thing, the Blighted Caretaker is our key unit. Just those quick Kalista flips, extremely important. It generates ephemeral units if we're trying to do Shark Chariots. It just does everything, and it's just a super important card. And so if you are looking to build towards Hecarim, I really try to make a big focus on things like Soul Shepherd. Just the Soul Shepherd plays fantastically with the likes of the Shark Chariots, and then makes your onslaught of shadows a little bit more intimidating. And then if you do find yourself with the Sand Soldiers kind of things with Hecarim, makes all of your Sand Soldiers real units as well. So, lots of options here. That's always been one of the big bonuses with Kalista, is the options that her deck can take. But here, this is not a bad set. Mark of the Isles is back in Expedition. This, to the best of my knowledge and the best of my memory, this only lives within the Shadows and Dust Hecarim, and so we may be able to just get somebody with this. This is always a pretty powerful card, especially in these decks, really focusing on ephemerals and focusing on last breaths. And so, if we're gonna just ignore Bilgewater. Depending on how things show up, I wouldn't be opposed to taking Sharma if it looks like we're going to be in Ephemerals. But as far as this pack, we're getting a Stalking Shadows either way, and I want to pick up the Mark of the Isles if we're getting a Stalking Shadows. Okay, and so here, quite easy. We've talked at extent about the importance of Blighted Caretaker. He showed up and made an appearance. Very glad to come in and take it. Right, so this is not quite the point where we have to make a decision as to what we're going to do. I think I'm okay with not diving in headfirst to ephemerals since we haven't seen a Shark Chariot. Now, this might change as the draft progresses, but at this stage, I think I want to consider ourselves to be a Slayers style deck, and then just come over here and take the Cursed Keeper so we have a sacrifice outlet. Okay, then our last pack of our last pack before our factions are locked in. If you're not familiar, you can get up to 3 factions through pick 6, and then after pick 6, your factions are locked in. So if we wanted to pick up Ionia, we could do so. The Greenglade duo, of course, plays well with the Shark Chariot style deck, but we're just so far away from ever pulling off that theme. So, looking at these cards, I'm kind of leaning towards just taking the Onlooker and the Fading Memories. Just the Chronicler of Ruin is a very medium quality card, and then I'm not a huge fan of Scuttlegeist. The Scuttlegeist is kind of like the top end filler for Shadow Isles. Like, I get that we have a lot of dead allies happening. Like, the Blighted Caretaker makes this thing cost 3 less, but the top end in Shadow Isles we're already kind of taking advantage of in the Hecarim and Rasa, and so he's not super important here. The Onlooker is not really what we're looking for, but hopefully we can make something happen here. Okay, pretty weak set of cards. See, again, this is what happens with this Afterlife pack. Don't want anything to do with possession or gluttony. These cards are abysmally bad. But we do have access to an atrocity down here. This is what we're going to go ahead and take. These are extremely good to have one copy of. Throwing a Hecarim for 5 damage, a Scuttlegeist for 5 damage, Rasa for 8. Even down at like the bottom end of our curve, throwing a Stygian Onlooker for 4. These can close out a lot of games that we weren't able to clean out the board. And so love having one copy of Atrocity. Okay, easy takedown here. We got our second Blighted Caretaker with the Kamavaran Dragon. I can just sit around and butcher the naming on that. And so as we're getting here towards the end, my main concern with this deck is we don't have any removal. We passed on one Vengeance, we've passed on an Unspeakable Horror, but removal hasn't really been showing up too much, but that's fixable, right? And my big worry is our early game. We only have the 2 Cursed Keepers, we don't have any Hapless Aristocrats, we don't have any Fading Icons, and so we're going to have to try and work a bit to fix that problem here. But with this, I just want to do a little bit of curve management. I'm going to take the 2-drop in the Soul Shepherd. Even if we don't end up with Shark Chariots, there's still ways to get usages out of these. Like a 5-stat 2-drop is fine. Makes our Blighted Caretaker saplings a little bit stronger. Not a bad pickup for us. Okay, I think we're going to have to take the Rasa here. I'm not a huge fan of Rasa. Like, she used to be extremely good, years ago. I shouldn't say years ago. The game's not that old. But at the release of the game, she was extremely good. She's really kind of dropped off in quality. But I don't want multiple atrocities. I don't want Mask Mothers. The Skitter is fine, but we're not like built into fearsomes. And this does have a removal spell in the Black Spear. At least gets on theme with a bit of what we're doing. Okay, alrighty, well here comes the removal. We're going to ignore the Stirred Spirit's Iron Harbinger since we've got some removal here. I'm leaning towards taking the Vengeance, but Grasp of the Undying is like rarely what we're trying to do. We're not really trying to be like a slow control grindy deck. Maybe we should look at ourselves as being that, having the 2 Rasas and the Atrocity, but I'm leaning towards just taking the Ether Fiend with the early game removal. Would like to pick up some fast removal. Oh boy, asking you shall receive. The Cursed Keeper Vengeance is just actual everything that we're looking for here. Easiest take we'll see today. Okay, alrighty, and here come the real synergies. We have the Shark Chariot. This would be our first copy, but again, I think we're too far away from the ephemeral strategy. We could maybe get something working with these, but it's not something I really want to chase down. I'm just going to go with the Fading Icon Neverglade Collector here. Just pick up some more of these early game sacrificables, and then the Collector is also very good at closing out games. And so, if we do manage to find some Shark Chariots, I think we can still make them work. It's just we're just way too deep in this draft to try and take advantage of them at this stage. Okay, alrighty. Ooh, decisions have to be made. This is the first Rekindler. Of course, the Rekindler is fantastic in this deck. We talked about the cyclical nature of returning Kalistas. It's also very good if it's returning Hecarim, just getting a ton of stats. He 5/6 now. They rebuffed Hecarim. I thought he was a 5/5. Something happened here? Were there stealth updates on this? Hang on. Okay, I had to look it up. That was a 211 patch. God, he's gone full circle, right? If you're not familiar with the history of Hecarim, he may be like the most adjusted card in the history of the game. When just the initial set was out, he was essentially the strongest champion in the game. He was this 5/6 for 6. The spectral riders that he generates were 3/2s instead of 2/2s. And then they've done like just a ton of nerfs to him. At one point, he was like a 4/5 for 5, and then they did the nerf to the spectral rider, and then he was not doing enough, and so it was like they kicked him back up to 6, but made him a 5/5, and now he's back. He's back up to his original form. So that's wild. I didn't even notice until now. But again, this is back to the action here. This is kind of tough. I think we can probably pick up another Blighted Caretaker at some point. I really like having 3. 3 feels like the magic number. 4 feels like you run into too many spots to where you've drawn multiples and can't take advantage of them. But you might rather have 4 than 2. But here, I think we need to just try and shore up our top end a little bit. I'll be happy with our top end once we've gotten this Rekindler, I think, and then hopefully we can just make a trade into another Blighted Caretaker at some point. With these, this one's tough. I don't know exactly how I feel about Song of the Isles. This was just added back into the game recently. I think if we were playing Shark Chariots, I would feel much more interested in it, but it is kind of nice being able to give something lifesteal. I think I might be okay with 1, but this isn't a card I want multiple copies of, and so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Sapling Toss. We are kind of light on removal, and so this sort of functions as a removal spell. We don't have the too many combos with this, but it's an ephemeral for Kalista, it's an ephemeral for Hecarim. We have 2 Soul Shepherds to potentially make it a 3/2. We have some positive interactions with this thing. Okay, so we got to go and check the collection. We do the pay to win lifestyle out here, so we got to go and turn something premium. Let's pull up the Shadow Isles. I'd say we're getting pretty close to being out as far as Shadow Isles is concerned. I know that there was like a lot of turds in those Kalista cards, and so I thought we might be able to pull up something that way. But alrighty, all right, we're getting better with the spells though. So we can do Mark of the Isles. I prefer to do things that generate units like the Onslaught of Shadows, since our opponent gets to enjoy it as well. But we don't have any of those in our deck, so this is going to be the time to upgrade our Mark of the Isles. It is premium and ready to take advantage of our opponents. Pay to win forever. Let's go. Okay, off we go. Yeah, it's certainly not as high powered as the Kalista decks of old. We didn't see any hapless aristocrats, or if we did, we passed on them. Our Cursed Keeper count looks okay. We have 4 of those sacrificable units in the early game. I'd feel a lot better if that was like 6. But I think we have the tools we need to make some moves here. You gotta. A lot of times you kind of feel like you're going to be an aggressive deck because the Mistwraiths were so good, and Kalista's a 4-attack fearsome for 3. But I think given the makeup of our deck, we have to be kind of certain that we aren't an aggressive deck here. So this one, a lot of times I advocate for hanging onto your champions because they're so powerful that you don't have very many copies of them. At least in the round 0 here, but. given that Hecarim costs 6, I think we have to just let him go. If it was like a Lux, I think I'm okay with like hanging on to cards like Lux, but not a a Hecarim here. And so this is ultimately pretty bad. I think we have to Sapling Toss Unspeakable Horror this thing. We can't go into next turn without having a play. And so this isn't like the worst. We do get a fresh card out of this Unspeakable Horror, but we definitely need something to do that isn't a 7-cost card. All right, well, I'm glad we did it, because we certainly did not pick up a something to do. But what you're seeing here is my big worry with these style of decks, right? We can still just play Spirit Leech, but it's very easy to get in these weirdo spots to where you can't quite get any of your cards on the board. But I think, you know, we can take 2 from a Protege. He may open, may not. I would probably lean towards not opening, but let's see. No hooks. Okay. All right, Kalista, bring the bring the awkwardness for us. She could be okay given that we have a rekindler in our hand, but I think we just need to get on board at this stage. Oh, there's the magic. And we can definitely do stuff with these cards. All right, so our attack's going to be shut down. That's okay. We have the Black Spear in hand. I'm going to target the Protege. I want to come out here. Is he playing Kalista? No, Hecarim Thresh. I want to protect our Kalista that we're planning on playing a couple of turns from now. So ideally what we'll be able to do here is add a Kalista next turn, and then on our next attack token be able to get her to flip. It was a very aggressive use of a Blighted Caretaker, given that we have two killable units from that. There's the big boy. Okay, well, we're just going to have to take the hit. At least at this stage, we can block his smaller units. See if his backline comes in. Looks like it's not going to. So we should be able to add Cursed Keeper this turn, sacrifice off our 2 units on board, play the Ether Fiend to take down his Hecarim, and then right, we want both of our units to die. Kalista won't die here. We'll take 7. We can play Cursed Keeper here. Next turn we can open with the Ether Fiend onto the Hecarim, and then if we lose our Kalista, we're ready to get her right back. And as far as taking this damage goes, we do have the lifesteal from the Song of the Isles that we should be able to pick up a bunch of health if we need to. Yeah, seems strong to me. Can do mean things to our Cursed Keeper. If he has the removal spell here, his Hecarim will live, but this should still flip our Kalista, even if he spends a Vengeance onto the Cursed Keeper. Withering Wail. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him spend a more expensive spell, but this does get our Kalista going. Have to use the Vengeance next turn. He can take Kalista down if he has a Black Spear, but not too worried about that since we can bring her back with the Rekindler. He'll feel strong. If he opens, we are going to have to deal with the dum-dums that he generates, the horses from Hecarim, but I think we're in a position to be able to handle that as well. We can gain 6 if we need to from the song, and then the way the Hecarim functions with these, he's gonna flip, so these are gonna look huge. But once you take the Hecarim off the board, they lose their stats, and so these are only going to be 2/2s that we're dealing with down here at the end of the line. So like this is 100% happening. Get that dum-dum out of here. We can block with Kalista. Get this block. Then these blocks down here will still be okay. So we'll only take 2 at the end of the day here. Won't lose any units. Oh, we'll lose our Cursed Keeper, or Abomination, that makes sense. But should we have flipped this? Should we have put our Ether Fiend in front of the Redeemers so that we have a better unit die for Kalista? I think our things will probably just die naturally. Okay. Got it. So do we want to go for this stuff this turn now that we've picked up the collector? I feel pretty good about just letting the collector wait a turn and just getting our Kalista going again. It's his Hecarim back. Annoying. Okay. I think we're gonna have to try and gain some health off of this one. It's a little scary coming into next turn now that we don't have a way to just take down the Hecarim. I don't want to just be getting bombed by some overwhelm next turn. Hey, where does that get us? Ultimately, I know we're gonna like lose the Ether Fiend here. We could have gained 2 more health from a unit that we were just gonna lose, but if he falls, it's kind of a disaster. And so, like with 1 health, it's kind of like yeah, whatever. But with the 2 health, I feel a little bit safer there. Ooh, Ferocity. Okay, this gets us pretty close to lethals, especially now that he's not being aggressive with his attacks. Can't just take 6. If we get we get to do this combo thing next turn. If our with our Kalista bringing the Rekindler back, now we have to make the decision as to if we want to use a Blighted Caretaker onto the Cursed Keeper. Oh, that's the one. That's going to give us a Fearsome. Right? I was worried about. Oh, this thing doesn't have Fearsome. This is okay. We're good now. The Mist Wraith is the Fearsome we can deal with. That's not a big deal. What are the chances that we just kill him this turn, right? If we say make a block, we need to deal 3 damage to him and throw Kalista at his face, or I guess more safely deal 4 damage to him and throw this at his face. But if we're going to throw 4, we have to actually lose our Kalista. I think that's something we could probably look to post-combat. So we can block down here on these. This is the easy block here. We get a Kalista here and this here. It's going to make him drop to 4. Okay. Seems good. Do your thing, Neverglade Collector. This feels like an open. This will bring back the Oh no, this is going to bring back Ether Fiends now. Okay, let's see if we can't just get them to spend some mana. That's what we. Oh, Vengeance is definitely on the table now. That's scary. Play your card. Play your Vengeance now. I'd feel much better if you spent all of your mana so that I can win the game. Right? That's what we want to see. So this makes him fall to 2. Okay. All right. So how does this look if things fail? Oh, we're not even dead. Nice. All right, no vengeance, please. All right, there was a world where we could have just let that combat happen, played a Masked Mother post combat, and then used that for our atrocity. But don't I don't think that would be better. It seemed like our opponent just wasn't going to spend any mana there. It was pretty worrisome though. There's a lot of outs for our opponent in that spot. All right, let's continue on with the Kalistas. Even though I mean, Kindred's probably better here. We're more of a late game grounded out kind of deck than a typical Kalista deck, but let's be okay. Haunted Relics don't really like, but they do come in and flip our Kalistas as well. So it has its uses, even though it's not that good of a card. Ooh, we are gonna have to be careful with that though. I just like I got quite used to the 4/4 Kindler being Rekindler being like the biggest unit in our deck, and so we're gonna have to watch ourselves and remember if we've killed off an Ether Fiend or if we've killed off a Rasa. Okay, so here we go. Some Zoe and Heimer. Well, there's our answer to Zoe. And the Unspeakable Horror. Let's get rid of the Spirit Leech and the Glimpse Beyond. The Onlooker's not great here, but it's something to do in the early game. Like if he leads with a Zoe here, then we can take her down next turn with the Nightfall. See if he gets his. See if he patiently waited for the Cursed Keeper before deploying his Zoe. Oh. Okay, I'm not super interested in that unit. We could get this Nightfall and Unspeakable Horror here, but this is a really low value target in the Duskbringer. Okay, so he's tapped out here. Do we want to spew all of our cards off on this? I'm kind of okay with that. Alright, so I mean, we have the Mark of the Isles for +2, then the Unspeakable Horror. Just the big thing here is you have to Unspeakable Horror in combat so that he doesn't get the Fury bonus. You can't do this after combat. Hmm. Awkward. We don't have any. We didn't pick up any of the early game sacrificables, which is okay. I think we can do this. Let's Haunted Relic. I'm gonna overwrite the Prey with the Crescent Guardian. You know, we have cards to sacrifice. I don't think we need this dude just hanging out. Um, and then see if we can't just get in for a big chunk of damage here. It's not gonna have a good blocker for the Guardian. Okay. That's not. It's not something I really want to be dropping a vengeance on. Like, okay with dropping the Ether Fiend onto it, but all right. It's quite a. Oh, okay. That was the Traveler. I was gonna say, it's quite a bit of reduction here. We're never getting a better. Like we could get a point of damage out of this next turn, I guess, but just go ahead and get his blocker off the board. It's important also in the sense that it kills off his unit that can block a fearsome. So there's a very reasonable chance we get to just dome him for 6 this turn, since we can hook whatever unit they play with the sapling, and then have this atrocity lined up. I think I'm okay just to get the value attack in though, right? If we say do this, he puts his 6 in front of the Ether Fiend. His board is now empty, and then we can still kill with atrocity. Definitely feel better about it now. Now that we're a little bit farther away from lethal. Veiled Temple does not feel like what you want to be doing here. We're just going to add the Onlooker to the board now. We're like 100% going to open attack next turn. And so, might as well go ahead and play it. Moon Weapons. You going to take the 3 damage? Shoot our Ether Fiend? Is that 2-cost follower? Okay. This stuff, I guess the Messenger can block our Ether Fiend now, but he's tapped out. Let's spin this Vengeance. And if he has double bursts, I guess he can get the Scamp into blocking range, but that doesn't. That seems like a pretty thin play. So of course the big boy shows up right at the end. Right, he does do a lot of stuff. This can most certainly fail, but good deal. Get that atrocity in there. That's two takedowns. Told you got to get a copy of atrocity. All right, so here, I'm not really excited about this Song of the Isles. I think I'm okay to let it go. It just did. It's one of these things that if we had like 4 Shark Chariots in our deck, then like sure. But we have 0 Shark Chariots in our deck, so it's tough to really get this going. and then like giving a unit lifesteal. These abilities just like don't play well together, right? If you say make a card that gives a unit +3 attack, overwhelm, and quick attack, like those are all things that play really well together. But if you make a card that's like, you know, give a unit +3 attack and tough and ephemeral, like those, they're just like a weird collection of cards. And so I mean, this could be good if we were just in like a real heavy race deck. That tends to be what you have happen with Shark Chariots, and they can't block. But that's just not what our deck is doing here today. So we'll get the one Chariot in our deck. We should be able to get some value out of this thing, but glad to get rid of the song. It's not what we're trying to do. Okay, onward and upward, the way things go. These atrocity kills always feels good. I mean, I get it's frustrating for the opponent. It's not like we're throwing 15 health Nasus at him, right? It's just a 5 health Kalista. Okay, interesting. I'm curious what's going on with this guy's deck. I see that. I have to hang on to the one. I see that like Elise Freylord combo and wonder if they've been able to put together the Iceborne Legacy with the Spiderlings. But then what's LeBlanc doing here? So we'll see. We'll see what opponent's trying to do. No need to play the onlooker. We'll kind of approach this like the last one, where we'll try to get a Nightfall if we need to, but not really counting on it. Just slow this down. We need something going on here. Vengeance Party. That might end up being a mistake right there. I'm not 100% sure if we need to hang on to the ways to deal with an Iceborne Legacy, but it's out of here. It's gone. And so we'll see for certain. But this, we might have to play the Relic into Spirit Leech just to draw the cards. Again, this is a super awkward draw that we pieced together here. How we feel about that? Just getting the Leech on the board feels pretty bad. Maybe it's okay. I hate giving up that much value. Alright, we'll just let it go. All the house spiders. I guess we can at least take down one of these 2/2s. This feels pretty abysmal, but okay. And Elise. Okay. Not really worried about this. Like we can find a way to take her down this turn if we need to. The Kalista pickup, kind of interesting. Kalista and Haunted Relic this turn. And it does leave us open to a, hey, look at me, everything can can challenge next turn attack. But I don't feel like I'm super worried about that. If our plan is to just kill the Elise with our Vengeance next turn, then it doesn't like super matter that she's, you know, the only one that can take down our Kalista. Yeah, welcome to the flip zone. Okay, yeah, this has all around been pretty awkward. Of course, the Collector is typically quite good against these aggressive decks, but we've kind of given up a lot of our early game sacrificables as well. Yeah, we're going to get blasted for 12. A lot we can do about that. Can't even really add a blocker. I mean, we can add the Spirit Leech, but it's just, if we add a blocker, it's just going to get hooked by a Spiderling. So I can go ahead and give you my analysis on this. This is not ideal. Are we just dead here? 2? Alright, we got some health. That's all you need, right? You just need some. A non-zero amount. Alright, that'll do it. Ugh, that was just too awkward. We have to do something about this early game. I mean, maybe that was just a touch of variance. I feel like we've done a bit in the early game, but these things where we don't have anything to do the first 3 turns, the first 4 turns is horrible. We can't expect to go far with our deck doing stuff like that. But here, I'm happy enough to get rid of Mask Mother. We don't have any combos with this. I don't even really like Mask Mother in, say, like Kindred style decks. It's okay-ish there, where you have the means to, get additional value out of your Slays. It's okay if you're playing Fearsomes. Just none of the stuff where Mask Mother, changes from being, borderline unplayable to bad into borderline decent, we don't have access to. So Doom Beast is a reasonable enough pickup. I'm not really excited about that, but on to the next one. Hey, Team Mega Keg. See if they'll be delivering the powder kegs to us today. All right, this is a little bit better. Hands like this play quite well on the even attacks, since we can play Cursed Keeper on turn 2, play Kalista on turn 3, and then on turn 4 come in with the Blighted Caretaker. But we also have the non-Kalista options here, playing the Soul Shepherd on 2, so that on turn 4 we can make 3/2 saplings with this. So we've got some options with this one. I wish we had a little bit more information before we just had to kind of dive in, but I think we can start out with the Cursed Keeper. If opponent's playing a Bilgewater Noxus, which tends to be really on the aggressive side of things with a lot of 1s and 2s, if they don't have a 1-drop, it makes me a little bit more confident in being able to take advantage of these boards. This is slightly scary here, though, if he goes for the hook. Okay, he doesn't subscribe to the FTP bust school of Cursed Keepering. And so we're looking pretty locked and loaded for next turn. What do we think about this Fading Memories? If we want to go ahead and use it to create something with the Blighted Caretaker, this is slightly scary. If opponent drew their singleton copy of Twisted Fate, we're about to get aced. But I don't think we can say, all right, well, I'm going to play around their singular card. I mean, it is scary seeing this come down. This could just indicate a Make It Rain. Like, Make It Rain would be much more likely than a Twisted Fate here. But there's definite potential for us to just get wrecked here, but I think the complete wreckage is just too rare for us to play around. Okay. At least on the upside of this is we do get a flipped Kalista attack in now. Hook one of these. We could have copied a sapling with the memories, but it seems pretty low value as well. I'd assume we'll probably block with like a 2/2. People or a 3/3. People don't usually just take this 9 hit. I would think his line. Blocking. Oh god, this is gonna be one of these games, huh? Like, why would you ever block with your challenger as opposed to the butcher? Okay. All right, we're still in it. That's not the end of the world. It's just we're pretty far behind on board now. Gonna count on this Neverglade Collector to come down and stabilize our life total. That's about right. I guess I guess that's what I should have expected out of this game, right? Between having the Powder Keg Twisted Fate to just annihilate our board, just coming straight into a flipped Swain immediately afterwards. That's about right. But all right, let's see what we can do. Recovery is looking further and further off of the table. We have the means. We got the Collector Rasa to come back. Like, that's what's giving me a little bit of hope for this one. So here, I think we have to lead with the Spirit Leech and then follow with the Soul Shepherd. Let's see if we get a unit that changes our mind. This actually works a little better, I think, if we add the Onlooker and then we can play Neverglade Collector. Outright. I guess it's better lose that unit than to lose our Spirit Leech. The mana costs involved with that kind of thing. All right, and then we're just gonna die to this open. But kind of is what it is. Oh, why not, right? why not just deliver the actual have-it-alls? Okay, good job, guy. So that's going to do that one. So, I mean, it was at least a worthwhile trial. I feel like I'm pretty. We can get the we can get the deck pulled back up before we do any of the analyzing, but I feel like I'm pretty on point with where this Kalista deck stands. Like, she used to be, a bit of a high roll champion, but that was between like finding yourself stuck with this like half of a deck to where it was like half Mist Wraiths and then half Slays, or half Fearsomes and half Slays, and you weren't able to really like hone in on a direction and really pick on how you wanted to take the draft. You would occasionally end up with these random bad cards in your deck, but you were so high powered that it tended to not matter, and then you could also eventually trade them away. And so you would go through the draft, have to pick up 2 or 3 of these like super low quality cards, and then at the end of the day you'd be fine. But with the kind of the state of Kalista now, I don't think she's bad. I don't think she's an unplayable champion. I just think that she's like firmly into tier 3. Like, they took away her blighted caretakers. Like, that's been kind of the progression of things, right? Was they added in like blighted caretaker, Neverglade collector, and then they took the Neverglade collectors away, and now they've taken the blighted caretakers away, and now she's left with this just like weird deck that really needs some tools to capitalize on things. And so I do feel like we got a bit lucky in the draft and picking up another Shadow Isles champion. We touched on that a bit during the draft, as to where through pick 7 through 14 we really want to be seeing 3 Shadow Isles champions, and we don't, or 3 Shadow Isles packs, and we don't want it to be like double Shadow Isles plus one more, since again, there's so many super low quality cards in her card pool. But I still think we're pretty spot on. I haven't got a chance to update the tier list. I'll try to get that done soon. Just between like the release of the 211 patch completely revamping everything, and then the release of 212 with 2 more champions, and then me moving and missing like 3 and 4 and 5 days of being able to put together content, it just really threw a wrench in my ability to get that tier list out. But I think Kalista is like firmly into tier 3. She just doesn't have the tools to be this consistent 7-win champion like she used to be. And so the way I typically describe the tiers, if you don't look at that, is like up in tier 1. I look at those as champions to where even if the draft goes bad, you can probably still get a 7 winner out of it. And then I kind of look at tier 2 as a little bit worse, right? Things need to be about average, and a tier 2 champion will take you to 7. It wouldn't be surprising if things went wrong and your draft fell flat. Wouldn't be surprising if you got together some kind of really like monstrous Draven deck. Those are where I kind of see tier 2 to be. And then with tier 3, I feel like you're going to be like averaging 3 and 4 wins, probably closer to 3. And then if things go right, then you can most definitely get 7, but things are going to be kind of like falling flat on occasion as well. And so, whereas you get down into tier 4, and you're really putting in the good work if you're able to take a tier 4 or a tier 5 champion to the 7 wins. But yeah, she feels like firmly in tier 3 now. Would be kind of interesting to see if we are able to piece together this like Shark Chariot deck. It is nice that there's kind of like a different card pool that she can kind of pivot over to, as opposed to just being the Mist Wraith deck. But yeah, I think this is definitely in tier 3 territory now. And so if you do look to draft this on your own, it does feel like she is more of the lines of a Slayers style champion now. They took away all of her fearsome cards, so you can't even try to like, oh well, we'll see if Mist Wraiths show up. They didn't. Let's backdoor into fearsomes, and so you're really just kind of stuck being in Slayers unless you pick up the Shark Chariots. And so The downside to being stuck in Slayers is the payoff for Kindred is just so much higher. And so, not bad. I was glad that we got to get this in here. This is a deck that I feel like we could definitely get 7 wins with, or we're a few trades away from being a real 7-win contender. But we definitely have a handful of curve issues and a handful of quality issues, which is, again, not too surprising given the changes in the 2.11 patch. But that is going to do it for us today. I saw some shiny stuff out here, so probably got a reward or two to click on. See if anything cool comes out of these. Ace of Hydravon. I don't know if I've even... Oh, it's the Encroaching Mists epic. Okay. That's new. I was like, what the hell is this card? I've never seen it before. Alright, what do we got here? We got Cryan Vigio. Welcome to the emotes. And we got, what is this? Some kind of Vigio little legend. Not quite a cat. We'll probably never use it. Is that it? We're almost here. We got the card back in the Senna, and then we will officially be done. Assure you we can get this done within the next 12 days. And let's see, there's a couple of loots out here as well. Taking the unit. Oh, Wazfry, you're the only choice. Okay. Well, welcome to the squad, my man. Process of elimination. Being the only unit, you are the one that gets the premium treatment. There's some kind of icon. And what is this? Another kind of icon. Alrighty. Well, that is going to do it for us today. I hope you learned how to assemble your Kalistas a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.